The wind came screaming down from the red mesas like it had a story of its own to tell, rattling the cottonwood leaves and scraping dust across the wide open land. The ranch stood alone against that wind, weather-beaten and stubborn. The kind of place only a man with nothing left to lose would choose to live. Elijah Cole had built it with his own hands after the war took everything else from him, his brothers, his faith, and the soft parts of his heart. Out here, pain had rules. You swallowed it. You worked through it. You survived. He was mending a fence when he heard the cry, not a coyote, not a horse, a human voice broken, trembling, carrying agony. On every breath, Elijah dropped his pliers and ran. He found her near the dry creek bed, collapsed against a rock, blood soaking through her buckskin dress. Her black hair clung to her face, and her hands were pressed desperately against her side. When she looked up at him, her eyes burned with fierce life, even as tears cut paths through the dust on her cheeks. "It's torn. It hurts so much," she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice. She was Apache, young, but her eyes had seen more loss than most men twice her age. Elijah froze. Helping her could mean trouble, real trouble. The land was already tense, soldiers riding hard, tribes pushed to breaking. A lone rancher sheltering an Apache girl could get him killed, but then she cried out again, pain ripping through her, and something inside Elijah snapped open. He knelt beside her. "I won't let you die here," he said, his voice rough. "I swear it." Lifting her was like lifting a flame, fragile and dangerous. She gasped when he carried her, fingers clutching his shirt as if he were the last solid thing in the world. By the time he reached the ranch house, his arms were shaking, not from the weight, but from the knowledge that once he crossed that threshold, there was no going back. He laid her on his bed, the only bed he had, and cleaned the wound as carefully as his rough hands allowed. It was bad, deep, torn flesh, the kind of injury that could kill without proper care. She bit down on a strip of leather to keep from screaming while he stitched her up, sweat pouring down his face as if the pain were his own. When it was done, she collapsed into exhausted sleep. Elijah sat there all night, rifle across his knees, listening to her breathing. Every shallow inhale felt like a judgment. Every exhale felt like mercy. At dawn, she woke. She studied him carefully. "If measuring his soul you could have left me," she said quietly. "I know. White men usually do." He had no answer for that. "My name is Nalin," she said. "My people were attacked. I ran. I fell. I thought the land would take me." Elijah nodded. "Land doesn't take. People do." She almost smiled at that. Days passed. Nalin healed slowly, pain still fleshing across her face when she moved. Elijah brought her war, food, medicine. He spoke little, but his actions spoke loud enough. Outside, the world crept closer, hoofprints near the creek, distant gunshots, rumors, carried by passing traders. One evening, Nalin tried to stand on her own and nearly collapsed. "It's torn," she hissed again, pain breaking through her strength. Without thinking, Elijah caught her. For a moment, they were too close. He could feel her trembling. She could feel the steady beat of his heart. Something dangerous sparked between them, not desire, not yet, but recognition. Two wounded souls, standing on the edge of a world that didn't want them. "You stay," Elijah said, the words leaving his mouth before his mind could stop them. "As long as you need." She searched his face. "That choice could destroy you. Then it won't be the first thing that tried." That night, as the fire crackled low, Elijah spoke softly, breaking years of silence. He talked about the war, about burying his brothers, about choosing this lonely land because it hurt less than remembering. Nalin listened, eyes reflecting the flames, and when he finished, she reached out and touched his scarred hand. "Pain does not mean you are weak," she said. "It means you lived." If this story has you hooked already, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends, because stories like this deserve to ride far and wide across the frontier. The next morning, soldiers came. They rode hard, rifles visible, eyes sharp. Elijah stepped onto the porch, calm as stone. "We're looking for an Apache girl," the officer said. "Wounded. Dangerous." Elijah didn't blink. "You're on my land, and you're in our way." Behind him, inside the house, Nalin listened. She knew what would happen if they found her. She also knew what Elijah would lose if they did. She made her choice when the soldier forced their way inside. They found the house empty except for Elijah. "Where is she?" the officer demanded. Elijah's jaw tightened. "Gone," It was a lie that would cost him everything. They beat him. They threatened him. They burned part of his barn, but he never spoke. By the time they left, Elijah lay in the dirt, bloodied but unbroken. At sunset, Nalin returned. She knelt beside him, tears falling freely now. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do that for me?" Elijah looked up at the sky, bruised and vast. "Because some things are worth more than surviving," he said. "Some things are worth choosing." And in that moment, the lone rancher did the unthinkable. He chose love, honor, and sacrifice over fear. In a world that punished all three, the second chapter can go even darker, deeper, and more explosive, with betrayal, impossible choices, and a final act that will leave viewers stunned. The night after the soldiers left, the land felt different, as if it had witnessed a vow it could not forget. The stars hung low and sharp, and the wind no longer screamed at listen. Elijah lay on the porch, ribs aching, blood drying on his skin. Every breath reminded him of the price he had paid, and every heartbeat reminded him he would pay it again. Nalin stayed. She cleaned his wounds the way he had cleaned hers, her hands gentle but steady. There was no fear in her eyes now, only resolve. When he tried to sit up, pain tore through him, and he sucked in air between his teeth. "It's torn, it hurts so much," he muttered bitterly, mocking fate with the same words she had spoken days before. She met his gaze. "Pain passes," she said. "What you did will not." Days turned into weeks. Word spread fast on the frontier, faster than wildfire in dry grass. A rancher who defied soldiers, an Apache girl who vanished like smoke, traitors whispered. Neighbors stopped coming. Elijah noticed it in the way riders skirted his land, the way eyes turned away when he went into town for supplies. Isolation returned, but this time, it wasn't empty. Nalin learned the rhythms of the ranch. She moved carefully at first, pain still flaring in her side, but she refused to be useless. She fed the chickens, mended clothes, and learned to ride Elijah's old mare at dawn when the world was quiet. Elijah watched her from a distance, torn between admiration and fear. Every laugh she let slip felt like a challenge to the darkness that had ruled his life. At night, they talked. She spoke of her people, of rivers that sang, of stories told by firelight, of a brother lost to bullets meant to erase history. Her voice would break, but she never begged the pain to stop. Elijah listened, his chest tightening with a grief he had no name for. He told her about the day the war ended, and nothing inside him did, about how silence had followed him like a shadow ever since. Something grew between them, slow and dangerous. Not rushed, not claimed, just felt. Then the unthinkable happened. A rider arrived just before dusk, his horse foaming, his face pale. He barely looked at Elijah before speaking. "They're coming back," he said. "Not just soldiers. Scouts, bounty men. They're offering money now. Alive or dead." Nalin heard every word from the doorway. That night she didn't sleep. Before dawn, Elijah found her standing at the edge of the property, dressed for travel, her wound bound tight. Her eyes shone, but her decision was already made. "I can't stay," she said. "Your land will burn. Your life will end." Elijah stepped toward her. "You leave, they'll hunt you forever. They already do." He reached for her hand, then stopped himself. Letting go hurt worse than holding on. "I survived war," he said quietly. "I can survive this." She shook her head. "This is not your fight." He surprised himself by laughing short, humorless. "Everything became my fight the moment I carried you out of that creek." She stepped closer then, pressing her forehead against his chest. For the first time she let herself cry. Not loud, not broken, just honest. "If they catch me," she whispered, "they will make an example." Elijah's jaw hardened. "They won't." That night, he did something he never thought he would do again. He prepared for war. He hid supply along the ridge, mapped escape routes through the canyons, and sharpened every blade he owned. Nalin watched him silently, understanding dawning in her eyes. This wasn't reckless courage. This was commitment. When the men came, they came hard. Gunfire shattered the morning. Horses screamed. Smoke rolled across the land. Elijah fought like a man with nothing left to lose, everything to protect. He moved with brutal precision, using the land the way Nalin's people always had. Traps snapped. Shots echoed. Men fell, but numbers always win. A bullet tore through Elijah's shoulder. He went down hard, vision blurring. As boots closed in, he heard a sound that made his blood freeze. Nalin's cry. She stood on the ridge, bow in hand, Pain forgotten, fury unleashed. She fought like the land itself had risen to defend him. Arrows flew. Men scattered. For a moment, it worked. Then a rifle cracked. Nalin fell. Elijah screamed her name and dragged himself forward, ignoring the fire in his body. When he reached her, blood stained her side again, darker this time deeper. "It's torn," she whispered, smiling faintly through the pain. "Still hurts." "No," he said desperately. "You're not leaving me. Not now." Soldiers surrounded them, rifles raised. Elijah did too. He final unthinkable. He dropped his gun and knelt, shielding her with his body. "Take me," he said. "Let her go." Silence followed. The officer stepped forward, studying the scene, the rancher bleeding, the Apache girl dying, the land scarred by violence. Finally, he spoke. "Leave," he said to his men. "Both of you." Elijah looked up, stunned. "This land's already taken enough," the officer muttered. "I won't add my name to its ghosts." They rode away, leaving dust, death, and mercy behind. Elijah carried Nalin inside, holding her as life trembled within her. He spoke to her, begged her, promised her things he didn't know how to keep. She opened her eyes. "You chose," she said softly. "That is everything." She survived, not because the world became kind, but because they refused to surrender to its cruelty. Months later, the ranch stood again, scarred but standing. So did they, together. Two wounded souls who turned pain into purpose, isolation into belonging. And when the wind swept across the land, it no longer sounded lonely. It sounded like a story worth telling, one worth sharing. If this journey moved you, subscribe to our channel and share this story with your friends. The West was built on courage like this, and stories like these deserve to live forever.